Oh, sorry, was this seat taken? Doctor Who, Series 11, Episode 3, Rosa. So this, I was very nervous about coming into because, let me be really blunt about this. I do not like historically set episodes where the Doctor and the companions meet a famous person from history. I just don't. I never really have. There's very few of them that I like. It's only a handful. I don't mind historical episodes that don't involve a famous person, but the minute that gets integrated, so often these episodes become really just weird and awkward and clunky, and it feels like, an attempt at trying to make an educational special fun, because they're dropping all these facts about the person, and usually there's a very caricature-esque performance for the historical figure at the heart of it. I generally don't like these things. So this one was a bit different. It avoided the pitfall, the potential huge pitfall that the premise of the Doctor and the companions running into Rosa Parks has, which is that if they do the usual Doctor Who thing and integrate a whole alien plot into it, and then the Doctor and everybody saves the day, it runs the risk of appearing to diminish what Rosa Parks did and what she was, because now suddenly it's not the black woman who refused to give up her seat because she felt she has as much right to it as anyone else did, and suddenly it's not that anymore. It's, well, yeah, that's what it looked like from the outside, but really it was aliens, and this doesn't really do that. This actually does a fairly impressive job of not in any way diminishing Rosa Parks and what she does, because what the role that the Doctor and the companions are taking on here are historical preservationists. They are doing everything possible to ensure that history happens as it was always meant to, but that doesn't mean going so far as to actually do the thing that the historical person did themselves just to make sure it's done. No, Rosa Parks still does it herself. She wasn't informed of the impact of what it is she's doing, so she's still doing it for the reasons that she did it originally, not because she was told, oh, it means this great thing, by this white woman that she didn't know. So, none of that. So there's a ton of stuff that could have gone really wrong, all of which is avoided. And I think it makes it fairly unique in terms of the historical episodes, certainly of the modern era, where the historical person doing the thing they are best known for kind of goes on, I was going to say uninterrupted. The sort of the plot of this is an attempt to interrupt it. But the whole thing with the idea that, she's doing what she was always going to do, and we're just kind of there, is a different way to play it. I'm not sure it's a particularly engaging way to play it, though. The episode overall, it didn't grab me very much. It's weird. I thought about this episode for a bit before recording this, a bit more than I had initially planned on doing, and I'm glad I did, because the more I thought, I'm like, you know what? On paper, there's a lot of good ideas here. Intellectually, I like this episode because I don't always need the world's at stake threat levels. I don't even need, the immediate characters we like are going to die threat levels every time. I dig something low-key from time to time. And like I said, the way to approach this story in this era, as they did, shows a lot of thought put into it, and I appreciate that. Yet at the same time, I wasn't grabbed. So I don't know if that is me and my own aversion to Doctor Who doing these types of stories in general, or if it actually isn't especially engaging overall. I think the villain doesn't help. I kind of wish that like it had been more of like just a cosmic something, like a cosmic domino effect, because the only interesting thing about this villain, so like when I say cosmic domino effect, I mean rather just like something happened somewhere else and it sent out ripples, and this is one, we got to fix it. We got to be sure that, this bus driver and her at this time, this bus, this day, doing what they did, but without an actual external antagonist, because he didn't help. But there is an interesting thing at play with what it is he's doing, which is the idea of altering history with tiny alterations, tiny nudges, tiny details, and then the domino effect of that resulting in a completely different future. That's actually kind of an interesting idea that the episode doesn't really do anything with. That idea just kind of exists to explain why this guy isn't just shooting, Rosa Parks and or the Doctor and her companions. So, they go through this whole thing about the restrictions put in his head after being released from a storm cage. So he can't just kill him. And so he's doing this as an alternative. And, all of that exists to explain why he doesn't just kill people. But even though that's all its narrative function is, it's an idea that I kind of want to see brought back and done better, done with more focus on that particular idea. And the other thing, there's something, I can't decide what I think about the villain in terms of his motivations, because as far as we get his motivations, he's basically just a future racist. And he's trying to go back and make sure that one of the big events to kick off a massive part of the American civil rights movement is stopped and not allowed to move forward, in the hope that that'll snowball into, what were his words? You people knowing your place, or something like that, whatever he says to Ryan. And like I said, I'm of very mixed feelings about that. On the one hand, I guess I always kind of preferred the Star Trek look in terms of the future. And I know the Doctor Who doesn't always deal with this, but it always throws me off when, we get something set in the future and people are acting like folks did in the 1950s. That can often kind of throw me off. Now, on the one hand, I get it, because it's like, these problems haven't gone away. From Rosa Parks' time to when she did this to now, they haven't gone away. Why would they have gone away in another 100,000, 10,000, 50,000 years? Why would they not still exist? And there's a validity to that. But I think part of the things that I don't like about that is when you make characters from the future, in terms of their motivations and their feelings about, the world as a whole, so much like figures from either modern or the past, it kind of makes the fact that they're from the future irrelevant. It's like, well, what's the point of even having a guy from the future in the story if he behaves exactly like a guy from the 1950s? Why can't it just be a guy from the 1950s who, for whatever reason, is acting out of time? His actions are distorting the timeline. But if he's motivated by the same thing that this guy from however far in the future is motivated by, like, I don't know. It feels unnecessary in terms of the fact that this guy is from the future. It's like, well, he doesn't behave any different from someone from more recent, so what was the point? I don't mean like what was his point within the story, but I mean, what's the point of having him be from the future then? Maybe that's what throws me off about that sort of thing. I'm not entirely sure. I was surprised the Doctor didn't admonish Ryan for blasting the guy with his own thing. I know it wasn't a weapon, it just sent him way back into the past, but I kind of want to see consequences of that. Because that felt... and again, I know it's not like he disintegrated him, but the Doctor's companion shot somebody. I feel like that's the kind of thing that needs more acknowledgement, if not in this episode. Like, that's a consequence that should play out down the road, and I'm not sure it's going to. So that was another moment that was weird. The woman who plays Rosa Parks, she looks the part quite well. She plays it pretty good, too. The accent is a little weird. I didn't do research because I don't really do research. But I'm going to assume that she was working off of archived footage of Rosa Parks in terms of figuring out how the voice worked, because the accent was a little weird. And I don't mean like it sounded like it was slipping, like the accent was just kind of weird, and I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt and assume that that was accurate to how the woman actually talked. So I'm acknowledging it, but also saying probably not actually something that I feel like criticizing, but just on the off chance that it's not accurate to how she actually talked, in which case, yeah, then it's just a weird accent that feels like it's from two different places at the same time. The companions and the Doctor were fine. You know, Graham, and I'm sorry, I'm going to keep saying Graham, because I know I have British viewers who get annoyed with me because I say it like an American, but look, dude, I'm an American. I'm sorry. If I try and do Graham all the time, I'm just going to stumble over it. He gets a bit of a highlight. It's interesting. I like his dynamic with Ryan. I like them continuing to try and bond, and mostly being able to do it over memories of Ryan's Nan. Yaz, still just kind of there for the most part. Still waiting for her to show a little bit more relevance. The Doctor was solid. She does the moral superiority, the sort of taking the high ground and saying what you're doing is wrong, and I get to say things. She does that well enough, and she was fine. That's kind of this episode in a nutshell. It's better than I thought it was going to be. Given the type of episode it is, and then specifically what it was dealing with, I was really nervous about this. I was really afraid that it was going to be a special kind of bad, and it definitely wasn't. But I don't feel the need to rewatch this. Like, I rewatched the first episode. I rewatched The Ghost Monument. I don't feel a particular impetus to rewatch this one. So, and I mean, as far as depictions of the 1950s go, and with a focus on race relations, that's... I think pretty well depicted, pretty well handled, all things considered. I have absolutely no doubt that there's going to be a certain stripe of fan or a certain stripe of troll masquerading as a fan who is going to, be calling, more SJW stuff because they have to make it all about race. Like, well, if you're going to do anything related to Rosa Parks, of course it's going to be heavily tied into race. That's what she's famous for dealing with and addressing. But... and to kind of back up, look, I'll just clarify. When I say trolls masquerading as fans, that's not me saying that everyone who makes those claims is a troll, but I do know enough to know that some of the people who do that aren't actually fans. They are doing it because they want to get a rise out of other people. So, it's a mix. But I don't feel that this is... I don't feel this is agenda pushing. Particularly, it is displaying the agenda of Rosa Parks from 60 years ago, 70 years ago. Holy cow. No, 60. I can't do math. I'm tired. But, it's not... It doesn't do a ton to obliquely tie it to any recent events. It's depicting this historical event that people learn about in school, and aside from the time travelness of it, at least so far as I know of the incident, depicting it pretty well. But again, it just didn't grab me, especially. It was fine. That's kind of where I leave it at this one. So that wraps up my thoughts. Oh, one last thing. Was it a misunderstanding? Because I remember that when it was said that the season was only going to be 10 episodes long, that the episodes were going to be an hour long. I remember that being a thing. Was that just a miscommunication? Because right now, only the first episode was an hour long. This and the one previous were been 48 minutes. So, was there a miscommunication or did plans change? Anybody got a beat on that? Because I don't feel like looking it up. Yeah, so that will now properly wrap it up. Rosa, what were your thoughts on it? Whatever they are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Whole bunch of stuff to do because there's buttons and there's links, including a link to my Patreon if you feel like supporting this show and the things that I do. I am getting within spitting distance of the goal range that would now enable me to get a new camera. The one I use is crazy old. But in any case, check it out if you feel like supporting me that way. But if you don't sweat it, because you are the council and I just run the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned.